Okay, try to imagine this. Constantinople. The year is 532 AD. The city is just ablaze. We're talking massive fires, chaos, and tens of thousands dead.
It sounds like a war zone.
Exactly. But it wasn't an invading army. This was the Nika Riots and the Spark. Well, it involves, believe it or not, sports fans, chariot racing fans, actually.
Tangled up with some serious political anger simmering under Emperor Justinian.
Right. So today we're diving deep into how something like, intense team loyalty can mix with societal problems and just explode. It's a dynamic you can still kind of see playing out today, actually.
Our sources are mostly historical accounts, Procopius and others, plus later analysis.
And our mission is to unpack what caused these riots, how they unfolded so dramatically, and importantly, the lasting impact they had on Justinian's whole reign.
So to understand this, you really have to get the Hippodrome scene. It was the absolute center of popular culture in Constantinople.
Like a giant stadium, but way more central to life.
Totally. And these factions, the Blues and the Greens, their rivalry was intense. Think modern football, hooliganism maybe, but more organized and with a history.
A history involving violence?
Oh yeah, serious violence.
Yeah.
It wasn't uncommon for things to spill out onto the streets. There was even a massacre, Blues killed by Greens, back in 501 AD. They weren't just fan clubs.
These demes, as they were called. So were they like proto-political parties? I've read theories about that.
That's the big debate, really. The traditional view sometimes links the Blues with the elites and Orthodox Christianity, and the Greens with commoners, maybe even certain heresies like monophysitism.
But that's been challenged.
Right. Some historians, like Alan Cameron, argued it was mostly just fierce sporting rivalry, not deep political or religious divides. But critically, whatever their exact nature, they could organize, they could act together.
And the Hippodrome itself was a political stage, wasn't it? People could actually shout things at the emperor there.
Absolutely. It was one of the few places for direct popular feedback. And adding to the mix, Justinian probably favored the Blues.
Which would definitely politicize things, right? Okay, so intense fan rivalries, potential political leanings. But it wasn't just about the races going wrong. What else was going on?
Well, there was a lot of simmering resentment against Justinian himself. He had this very autocratic style, grand ambitions too, wanted to restore the Roman Empire to its former glory.
Which sounds good, maybe, but I imagine it cost a lot and probably annoyed the old guard, the nobility.
Exactly. He relied on advisors who weren't traditional aristocrats, which caused friction. And his legal reforms, huge undertaking, the Corpus Juris Civilis.
Led by Tribonian, that foundational text of Western law.
The very one. But it stripped power from the aristocracy, and Tribonian himself faced accusations of corruption, taking bribes. That didn't help his popularity.
So legal changes upsetting the elites. What about the average person?
That's where John the Cappadocian comes in, Justinian's finance guy. He needed money for the wars, for Justinian's ambitious building projects, and for unpopular tribute payments to Persia after a peace treaty.
So taxes, new regulations.
Yep. New taxes, crackdowns, things that hit various levels of society pretty hard. Plus, Justinian had religious policies suppressing pagans and heretics, adding another layer of discontent.
It sounds like a perfect storm brewing. Different groups, all unhappy for different reasons.
And Tribonian and John became the faces of that resented administration. Yeah. Symbols, really. So you have this tense city, these organized factions, and then comes the spark.
The catalyst, what was it?
It was a botched execution, January 10th, 532. The authorities tried to hang several criminals, but two of them, incredibly, one blue supporter and one green, survived the hanging.
Wow, they survived? What happened then?
They were rescued by monks and taken to sanctuary in a church. Now this is key. Suddenly the blues and greens had a shared cause.
Demanding mercy for both men.
Exactly. At the next chariot races, January 13th, the unified crowd pleaded with Justinian for a pardon.
And Justinian?
He remained silent. Refused. Big mistake. That refusal, that silence, it just unified them completely against him.
And that's when Nika changed meaning.
Precisely. The chant Nika, which means win or conquer. Usually for their chariot teams, it turned into this massive roar directed at the emperor. The crowd surged out, attacked the imperial palace complex, burned the praetorium. It just exploded.
5 days of chaos, right? Constantinople burning.
Total mayhem. January 14th to the 18th, fires everywhere. They burned down huge parts of the city, including landmarks like the original Hagia Sophia, the Senate House, symbols of imperial power.
This sounds like it went beyond a protest very quickly.
Oh, it did. It became a full-blown political rebellion. Some senators saw their chance and threw their support behind Hypatius, who was actually a nephew of the previous emperor, Anastasius. They declared him the new emperor right there in the Hippodrome.
Justinian must have been panicking. Was he thinking of fleeing?
Accounts suggest he was. But then, Empress Theodora made her famous intervention. Whether she said those exact iconic words or not, royal purple makes a noble shroud, the story goes that she shamed the men into staying and fighting.
A pivotal moment, real or legendary. It definitely seems to have changed the course.
It rallied them. Justinian launched a countermove. First, his general Narses, apparently with a bag of gold, went into the Hippodrome and managed to bribe a section of the Blues.
Breaking the unity. Clever, but cynical.
Very. It fractured the opposition just enough. Then the generals Belisarius and Mundus led loyal troops, many of them foreign mercenaries, into the Hippodrome, and, well, it was a massacre.
Slaughtering everyone inside.
Brutally effective. Estimates run as high as 30,000 people killed in the arena. Hypatius, the would-be emperor, was captured and executed. Rebel senators, their property was confiscated. The revolt was crushed.
So what was the aftermath? Did things just go back to normal?
Not quite. Paradoxically, the failed riots massively strengthened Justinian's position. His rivals were dead or disgraced. The political power of the factions, the demes, was broken. The Hippodrome Games were even suspended for a while.
And he rebuilt.
Oh, did he ever? He launched a huge rebuilding program. And the centerpiece, the new Hagia Sophia, built on an unprecedented scale, became this immense symbol of his restored authority, his power, his connection to God.
Did he learn any lessons, change his policies, moderate his advisors?
Not really. He largely continued his ambitious projects, his legal work, his military campaigns. He even eventually reinstated Tribonian and John the Cappadocian. Despite their unpopularity, he doubled down, essentially.
So, wrapping this up, the big takeaway seems to be how these seemingly separate things like sports passion and political anger can suddenly merge and create something incredibly destructive.
Absolutely. It's a potent reminder of that volatility. The Nika riots were this crucible that ultimately forged Justinian's autocratic rule, paving the way for the rest of his long, impactful reign.
It really makes you think, okay, here's something to ponder. Where do we see similar dynamics today? Are there modern hippodromes or factions where cultural passions and political frustrations might intersect in unpredictable, maybe even dangerous ways?
Yeah. What bubbles of intense passion exist now, and how might they interact with the political landscape? Something definitely worth considering.